Well, we think you all are with us. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm Anna Krueger with the ISA MAPS coaching program. I've been in ISA since 2006. So it's been a long time. I know. And I've been coaching the role the last 4 years since 2015. And then Katie, tell everybody who you are.
I'm Katie Collins. I'm a licensed real estate agent here out of Austin, Texas with the Heil Real Estate Group. I joined the real estate community in October of 2013 as Tim Heil's listing specialist, and I did that role for a couple of years. And then I transitioned over and helped another coach in our program, Sarah John, with the hiring and training program for an ISA company. And I have been a coach in this program since 2017, I want to say, maybe 2016.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's been like 3 years.
It feels like it's been like 8 months.
Yeah.
So 3 years sounds right.
Yeah. And everybody loves Katie. Her clients have great things to say about her. So for both of us, we're part of the ISA coaching program through Keller Williams MAPS coaching. To find out more about it, you can go to isamapscoaching.com. We've got webinars on there. So previous webinars we've done like this are housed on there. So there's a lot of free resources. There's also a place if you say, you know what, I'm ready to take it to the next level, you can hit talk to a coach. You see everything you need there. And you do get one of us. You actually get a coach. So isamapscoaching.com. So let's jump in. So today we're going to talk about what not to do. What not to do. There's a lot of things not to do. And I'm going to start. I have about 5 things I'm going to share, and then Katie will finish this out here. And Katie, feel free to speak up as I go.
Okay.
But I'm just going to shoot really straight with you guys today. And the goal here is to help you retain talent and not lose money. Every time we have a talented person leave the team, they walk out the door with money, right? Because it was wasted time, wasted energy that ended up not ultimately going anywhere with us anyway. And so we're going to talk about that today. Where a lot of this came from that I'm going to share with you comes directly from ISAs. Some of it is stuff I used to think, because as I mentioned, I've been an ISA since 2006. But there's a Facebook group. You're welcome to join it. It's called ISA Masterminds Group. And there's about 3,500, 4,000 people in there. And I regularly get messages from people. And I think it's because I'm like the girl that's on Facebook that I don't really know, but she does stuff with ISAs. And so I get private messages from people I don't know at all. And they'll just message me and start telling me all of the issues they currently have and why they're thinking about leaving the role. So I'm going to share with you the most common things I hear through those private messages through the internet screen, right? So they get pretty real with me. So the number one thing that I hear is that the role is minimized. And what I mean by that is they're talented people and the role gets referred to as the entry-level role on the team. So that's very common, right? Well, if you think about it, you want a talented person. Gary Keller talks about how lead generation is the lifeblood of the business, no matter who's doing it. Agents, ISAs, even admin through their work to get referrals in the door, reviews, all that feeds lead gen, right? And that is the lifeblood of the business. So it would make sense that we want a talented person in the lead generation role. So think about this. You're probably a talented person listening to this, or you wouldn't take time to be on this webinar right now. You're probably talented, you're seeking growth. How would you like to stay permanently in a role that's called the entry-level position of the team? Most talent would not go for that, right? The other thing is, it really can be a career in and of itself. I know several ISAs that have been ISAs 4 or 5 years, and they're incredibly talented people. And what they say is, why would I ever want to be an agent? I love the schedule. I don't want to do showings. I don't want to go out and meet with these people. I don't want to work weekends. I love the ISA role. Why would I want to do anything else? And so that's the biggest thing. Now, if you treat the role as the role that people start in, I do think that's okay. Just don't talk about it as entry level. So let me give you an example. If you say that you have agents start on your team and they start in the ISA position, what I recommend is the first 90 days, call the position agent in training. So for 90 days, you are an agent in training. After the 90 days, then you specialize and you're either an ISA, buyer agent, or listing agent. That's what I would recommend. And then that way it's equalizing that role. Does that make sense, Katie?
Yes, I love what you're saying here. As a listing agent, I distinctly remember coming into the office and being jealous of the ISAs on our team and wondering if I could go down to that role. because they didn't have to deal with clients after hours. And I just thought that's amazing. It's amazing. So I totally, and I'm on board with that.
Yeah. And having been an ISA, I would never want to be an agent. I have no desire to be an agent. And so we want to appeal to those people, right? And cause them to want to stay in the role. Okay. So we've got 25 minutes. We still have 9 things. So I'm going to move on. I could park a whole webinar just on that right there.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing we don't want to do is not provide feedback. So again, we're attracting a talented person to this role. Well, talent in a sales role, they're going to be results oriented, right? They're going to want to know, well, what happened? Well, the most common thing that I hear from people, again, in that ISA, second to I don't like being treated as entry level, is I'm thinking of leaving because I don't know what happens to my appointments. It's like they go into a black hole. So I'm setting appointments. And it's like pulling teeth to find out what was the outcome of that appointment. And I don't know about you, Katie, I see this happen a lot with people I coach individually, and it's a system we work to fix. It's easy to fix, but it takes work, definitely takes work. And the other piece of that is when they have feedback on what happened to their appointments, it tells them, well, what do I need training on, right? So if a lot of mine didn't show up, well, why didn't they show up? That tells me I need to work on a certain skill, right, of getting them to show. Or if they showed up and didn't sign, well, why didn't they sign? Were they not pre-qualified enough? I need to know that because I need to get better with pre-qual. So there's a lot of reasons to provide feedback, but the number one thing is with retaining talent, they want the results. So make sure they know the result of their appointments. That's another thing not to do. Don't provide feedback. Anything to add on that one, Katie?
The one thing I would add to this is if you're a rainmaker on this call and your agents aren't tracking what happens with their appointments, not only is that a challenge for the ISA to get feedback, but shame on the agent. If you're going to sit there and hold the ISA accountable to their numbers and their goals and their conversion rates, we need to have that same data for the agent to learn about their conversion rates as well. So this for me kind of gets under my skin a little, not just from the ISA perspective, but from the agent perspective too.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, Katie, because you are the agent, right? And so I love that even as an agent, you're having that like camaraderie with the ISA. That's how it should be. Mm-hmm. And it helps the agent, right? I know when I was at the Haro group looking at these numbers, I started to realize the agents typically had a pretty normal conversion rate across the board, except for one was much lower. Well, I didn't figure that out until I got feedback. And it became a coaching conversation. And that agent actually got turned off ISAs setting appointments for him until he got his conversion rate up. But it was eye-opening. Nobody really realized until we got the tracking. And he ended up actually becoming one of the better performers on the team. But it started with a painful conversation through tracking. So it helped the whole team. Absolutely. Okay, kind of in line with this one is make sure that if you're an agent and you have an ISA setting appointments for you, the third thing is to make sure you don't cancel one without talking to them. I remember an appointment I set on paper, the pre-qualification form, it did not look good. It really did not look good. The numbers for what the client wanted, for what that neighborhood demanded, were not in alignment. However, they had a lot of equity. It's number one. But the biggest thing that you could not tell from paper is the client was incredibly motivated. So I knew on paper it doesn't look good, but if the agent brings their consulting hat to this appointment, they actually made list because the motivation is incredibly high. So thankfully the agent came to me and we talked about it. He went on the appointment and took the listing. So thankfully, but what came from that was a conversation. He did not just cancel it just from paper without actually talking to me first. So keep in mind, your ISAs typically are working with these leads. I mean, it can be months of nurturing. You definitely do not want to take one of those appointments and without talking to the ISA, just cancel it. It hurts when that happens, especially when you've nurtured and nurtured. You don't want to do that. Anything on that one, Katie?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is basically you really want to facilitate a healthy working relationship between your ISA and your agents. And one way in doing that is helping them define clear terms that they're using in everyday language, like, appointment set, qualified. Make sure you're all speaking the same language, and then give each other permission to go outside of their standards as long as they communicate with one another as well.
Yeah. I think and key thing is communication, which actually is a great segue to the fourth thing is don't isolate your ISA. Don't isolate them. A lot of ISAs are very social. And so it's important that they're with the team. I know I actually worked from home as an ISA for a period of time, and I found my mindset starting to tank because I was not with the team. Part of the value of being with the team is, number one, it does feed that social interaction, makes it easier to get feedback. But also, I truly believed in the agents because I saw them working every day. We lead generated together. I heard the way they talked with their clients, and I learned from that. And that's the biggest thing. If you have a new ISA and stick them in the corner by themselves, they're not going to be able to hear from people that have been doing the role with success to pick up on their habits. So you want to make sure they're not isolated. The other benefit of having them with the team is it gives them material to use on the phone. So what I mean by this is if I'm in a morning meeting with the team and I hear Nate say, I just won a multiple offer yesterday against 6 people. Well, if I'm talking to a buyer lead later today and they're like, I don't know, I kind of just want to, do this on my own. I can say, listen, trust me, you want to work with Nate. Just yesterday, he won a multiple offer against 6 people. You really want to work with that guy. So if I'm not with the team and I'm not there to hear these things, I don't have that material to pull out on the actual phone. So you want to make sure your ISA is with the team, not isolated. Okay. Now, if for some reason, maybe you already have an ISA that is remote, maybe that's the case, then you can still have them join in through something like Zoom, what we're doing right now. It could be Google Hangouts, but you want to make sure that somehow they are with the team for a portion of the day. Katie, anything?
I just totally agree with that. That's all.
Can you just say that to everything?
Yeah. Okay, so then the next one that we have here on our list is don't develop your team goals based on anybody else's. So I know a lot of us on this call may be new to developing an ISA department. And one of the first things we ask ourselves is, how many appointments should I expect from my ISA? Unfortunately, a number of us may turn to somebody they've spoken with or have heard the reports on a stage somewhere that says, oh yeah, my ISA sets 20 appointments a month or 40 appointments a month, whatever it is. The challenge with using other people's numbers is we don't have enough data more often than not. And I fell victim to this somewhat recently with a coaching client. They were telling me they were setting X number of buyer appointments a month, and their conversion rate was really low. And I was like, this just doesn't make sense. And as I dug in, all of their appointments were phone calls for the agents to call the
follow-up
respective.
call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that is not an appointment.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I wanted to say is that is not an appointment, but that's because they have a different definition, a different working definition of the term appointment. So what I would caution you to do is to not just jump onto any number that you hear, because you typically don't have enough facts and data to really understand that number at a high level. And let's say you do, power on, how does that translate to the lead sources that you're calling, right? Yeah. You want to look at your lead sources specifically and determine conversion rates based off the number of leads you have and the type of leads that you have as well. So I caution you to not set your ISA up for failure by giving them crazy goals that just aren't in alignment with what they're actually doing.
Yeah. Add something to that, Katie?
Yes.
Just working with a client this morning, we were setting 2020 goals for ISAs. And the question was, well, how do you set a goal? And this is something where I don't think Katie and I would be comfortable totally going into this on this, because it really is individualized to the team, and that's why it helps to have a coach. But the short answer is figure out, what does it cost to have that person on the team? Think of it almost like a lead source. What are you paying for this person to be here? And then what's the ROI you expect? And then how many closings do you need to hit that ROI? So for example, if you're paying them, for easy math, $10,000, I know, don't do that. But if you're paying them $10,000 and you want 3 times ROI, that's $30,000. How many closings do they need to give you to bring you $30,000? And obviously your number would be more than that. But the point is, that's the short version of how you create your minimum expectation. So
just to dovetail off this, point number 10 on my list of 10 things not to do is don't assume that their goals are in alignment with your goals as the rainmaker. So what Anna's saying is absolutely correct. You need to find your minimum, like how much do they need to bring in minimum for me just to keep them? But then you're developing your own goals, and it might be a mixture of, this number of appointments is something we can do with the staff that we have. And if we can get everybody for a month, then we're going to be stellar, right? The challenge with just saying, okay, I think you can set 40, Katie, is what are Katie's financial goals? Maybe her goal is going to be met at just setting 10.
Yeah.
That's a challenge. And this is a challenge that we have faced a lot on our team, because, and I'll just call him out here, I know he'd be raising his hand and saying, yes, I've done this, is Tim Heil, our rainmaker, is notorious for sitting down with us to develop our goals and convincing us to do more than what we felt comfortable committing to in the first place. Yeah. So not only do you want to just really check yourself, but also run the math. If their financial goal is to make $80,000 a year, and that's 10 appointments a month, and you're wanting them to double that, they may not be on the same page with you on that. And so when they fall short, you might get frustrated. In reality, they think they're doing great. So that's another one on that list. What do you think about that, Anna?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, because if we tell them what their goals should be or convince them, that just imagine the whole year. I'm picturing that I'm walking uphill with a rope and the person behind me is like dragging us, like the weight is dragging us down the hill. Because the thing is, when it's July and if they're not on pace for that goal, imagine how difficult that coaching will be, or that accountability, because emotionally they're not engaged with the number. So why would I work extra? Why would I work Saturday? All along I was happy making 80K. You wanted me to make 160. I was happy with 80, and I don't want to work Saturday. So you start to have those issues.
Yeah. Okay. And you're just setting me up perfect for this, by the way, because the next don't is don't not hold them accountable. And what that translates to for you as a rainmaker is make sure you're having, and you've carved out time dedicated to talk with them on a weekly basis in the form of a 411 or just a one-on-one meeting, where you are going over things like their goals. And you're also asking questions like, how is it going? What are some of your challenges? What can we work on to improve your performance or your happiness or your overall job satisfaction? So the challenge is, we often want to just set it and forget it with this role. It speaks to putting them in a room off to the side as well. And if we're not constantly checking in and making sure that they feel like an equal member of the team, then we can't expect to get great results. It's just that simple.
Yeah. And talent wants to be held accountable.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. They like being pushed. They like being rewarded, all of that. So yeah, absolutely. And then the next thing that we have on our list here is do not skip role play. So it happens, right? You're training them. They're getting better. They get awesome. We're like, all right, you're good. Knock it out of the park. Keep going. The challenge that we find with people that end up having a high level of mastery of the role is eventually, and I'm guilty of this, if we don't continue to have a focus on our skills and our scripts, we start to kind of get a little bit lazy, I want to say. In my situation, more so, I got a little too confident. I was so used to hearing the same responses over and over again that I stopped active listening at a high level in some situations. One of which I can remember is setting an appointment with a past client who reached out to me, not a past client, but a past meeting from 2 years prior. He said, "You're the only one that was honest with me. I wanted to call and see if I can interview you to list my house this year." I said, "Sure. What days are best? Blah, 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 blah." Did I ask him if he was interviewing more agents? No. Was I cocky? Yes. Did I feel like I heard it all before? 100%. Yeah. Did I call him the day before to confirm? Yeah. You know what he said? "I already hired someone. Thank you." So it's just it's a testament to, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll never forget to ask that again. And yet I know I still benefit from routine role plays and practicing. So don't just turn that off entirely. Okay. What are your thoughts, Anna?
Yeah, you were just causing me to reflect. There was a location I used to train at up in the Jersey area, New Jersey. And the top performer, she was consistently the top performer in the entire region. I actually was a little intimidated going to her office because I'm like, she knows so much. Every time I went to her office, she'd say, "Hey, Anna, could I have like just 15 minutes of your time? Because I have a few things I want to work through with you. And, I just want to script some things out." And honestly, I don't even know if she knows this, but she taught me a huge lesson in humility. Because I thought, here's the person that out of the entire Northeast region, she is the most consistent top performer. And yet every time I walked in the door, she'd ask me for about 15 minutes of time because she wanted to learn. So that stuck with me and informed me that idea of having a teachable spirit and that humility of no matter how good you are, no matter if you're the best person in the office, part of how you're going to stay that way and keep performing is the teachable spirit. Mm-hmm. And so that really stuck with me. I wish I could remember her name so I could tell her. That was like 10 years ago and I still remember it.
And I'll say this, on our team, we get on the phones first thing in the morning and we call through, and at about 10:15 we take a break. And it's in that break that we do our role play, and it's very focused. It's oftentimes what we've encountered on the phone that morning, especially if we feel like we're hitting a roadblock, if somebody's starting to get, what's the word? Stuck.
Yeah.
Discouraged, that's the word I'm looking for. They'll say, oh man, I keep hearing blah blah blah, and we'll role play that specifically. And we're already all together, so it's super easy to do, and it's specific to what we're experiencing, so we're more motivated to do it. And that's honestly how we get our role playing in the day. It's just carve out a little break time, and it's also some time to kind of like vent a little about what we've been hearing on the phone and things like that. It's just a fun time.
Something I want to point out that Katie just said, because your team is so good at just following the systems and models that it just rolls off your tongue, and people might not even realize what you said. She said, we're all already together anyway, right? We're already together anyway. So think about the culture of your team. Is everybody off lead generating on their own? Do we have set times that we're all together? The Heil Group is one of the top performing teams in the industry, and that success leaves clues, right? So they're all together lead generating anyway. No big deal to take a quick script practice break at 10:15. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thank you.
Just kind of missed that. That was a big clue of success right there. Okay.
Yeah, and so then the other point I wanted to make too is, just because you showed your ISA one time how to do something, don't assume they know how to do it. So that's really speaking to training. You've got to have some systems in place to test your ISAs out and verify, inspect what you expect, that they know how to handle those specific calls. One thing that was really kind of funny for us to learn that we were short-sighted on is we had a lot of attention to, here's an objection, here's how you handle this, blah, 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 right? We did not do a great job in the beginning of training people how to manage individuals who are angry. So they'd get a call, they'd call, and the person's like cussing them out and saying, don't call me again. Okay, well, we just kind of naturally assumed like you would be apologetic and hang up. And what we kind of took for granted is some of these people got defensive and were angry and started to yell back. And you're just like, oh my God, what's happening? And we realized, we never actually trained for this scenario. We just assumed they would handle it the way we handle it. So there's so many different ways and things to think about when you're training your agents. So I just caution you, don't assume because you showed them one time they know how to do it. You want to inspect what you expect and test them out about every scenario.
That's really, really good. And especially for those of you that might be hiring your first agent or your first ISA, maybe you're the team owner. I hear a lot of team owners say, I don't really know how I do it. I just did it. And it's partially a sign of talent, because you could
natural
without really knowing how you did it. Right. You're a natural. However, not everybody's a natural, right? And even if you are a natural, imagine being a natural with some systems and some scripting into that, how much better you could be even as a natural. So yeah, to Katie's point, don't assume that they'll do it just like you do. They don't think like you do, right? Like, you're the one that started the team. They just don't think the same way. I don't think like Caro. I don't want to run a team. I really don't. I don't think like him.
Never.
Yeah, neither Katie or I ever want to run a team. If you run a team out there, just more power to you. That's excellent. But we don't think like you. And so don't assume, to Katie's point, that they're going to think and do things like what you say. Mm-hmm. Katie, I had one more. Did you have any more things?
That's it. We're going to hit 10 with this one.
Okay. The last one kind of feeds off what you just said, Katie, is make sure that we don't put them on the phone without training. So there used to be this school of thought of just day one, get them on the phone, just throw them in, let's get going. And I know from coaching ISAs and being an ISA, there's an element where that could be good. However, more times than not, it sets them up for failure. Talented people want to see success. And so you want to give them some type of structure, some type of guidance before they get on the phone the first time, so that they know how to handle what comes their way. I'm not saying it needs to be days and days and days of training, but give them some type of training. Do some role play. Don't just hire them, talent will figure it out, go for it. There's an element of, they joined your team for a reason, right? Probably want some guidance, probably want some structure. So don't have this person start making calls without any type of training whatsoever. Give them some scripts to use, role play with them, let them hear you make phone calls. One of the best things that Haro did for me was when we started, he actually moved his lead gen area into my office. We had a tiny office, just the two of us. And I got to hear Haro lead generate the whole time. Well, I basically just picked up and started parroting what he was saying. He didn't have to necessarily train me for days and days and days, but he gave me some training. Then we got on the phone together, and just from being around him, I picked up on his habits, and that helped me become a strong lead generator because I was just doing what he did. So that would be the other thing is it kind of feeds into don't isolate, but also don't not train them. Make sure that you do those things. So Katie, we've thrown a lot out there. Katie and I discussed how all of this in 30 minutes would be a lot. This is part of why it's valuable to have a coach. 5 years ago, I didn't see the value in coaching, just being honest. And I ended up getting a coach and my whole world changed. My health got better. My finances got better. My hours at work got better. I don't have to work as much. I mean, honestly, life is very different over the last 5 years, in huge part because of coaching. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, maybe I need more of this, maybe it needs to be customized to me and my team, go to isamapscoaching.com. I think we have a slide we can put up for you. The isamapscoaching.com, and there's a button there, hit just talk to a coach. You'll get me, Katie, Annalisa, Alana, one of us that are coaches with the program. We're happy to talk with you. Hitting the button doesn't mean you're definitely getting into coaching, but it gives us a chance to find out, are you the right fit? Are we the right fit for you? Is this something that makes sense for right now?
Yep.
All right. I think we answered your question, Rick, about the scripting time. When is the best time? I know on our team, we used to do 8:30 to 8:45, and then 9 o'clock, everyone was on the phone. I think it just kind of depends on your team rhythm. We knew that 8 to 9 was the valuable time on the phone. We also believed in our team having a team meeting every morning and reading together, because reading, leaders become readers, right? Or backwards, readers become leaders. And so we would read every morning, 8 to 8:30, script 8:30 to 8:45, and then 9 o'clock get on the phone. And we compensated for the 8 to 9 hour by just being consistent. We did it every day, 9 to 12, we're on the phone. We never really had a problem setting enough appointments because we were consistent with what we did. So I think what I'm trying to say, Rick, is find a time that works for your team rhythms, find a time that can be consistent and daily, and you should be set. It doesn't have to be what Katie or I did necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I think that's everything. If you're not already in there, check out ISA Mastermind group on Facebook. That's where we make a lot of announcements as well. ISA Maps Coaching has a lot of free webinars, and we'll let you know when we're going to do another one of these in about 2 weeks.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a great day.